Hello, everyone. Welcome to Train to Win. This is a beautiful topic that we designed for us to have a moment to sit down, to have a dialogue. So, I wanted to say good morning and good evening to everyone come join us from all over the world. And the reason we came up this idea is the fact there's a lot of programs out there. There's a lot of attention to focus on the students, on the competition, and everything else surrounding our business. But I feel like, if you look at Instagram, all we see is beautiful dancers, which is really fantastic. But however, I feel there's two groups of people that are being neglected, actually. One of them, actually teachers. And I'm a ballet teacher. I used to be a ballet dancer. Now I'm a ballet teacher. And another group of people is parents. So today, we actually dedicate this entire evening to serve two groups of people. One is the teachers, like you and I are together. And we are looking at today's dance landscape. And the reason I say teach to win, the winning part of it is an interesting phrase. So let's think about who are we winning? Who is the competition? Let's say, for example, the ballet competition, of course, students are, the event designed for people to win. But my question is, behind every student, who are behind every student that out there for the 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes of presentation? Who are two groups of people? One, teachers like you, the other, like you and I, the other, the parents. So teach to win, there's multiple element, multiple meaning to this. So I want to just go right to it at this moment. I designed a few topics that to capture this particular very elusive 3 words, teach to win. And I think a lot of times the winning
Recording
part
in progress.
is to ourselves. Not only the product we present, the events we present, the students we produce, the class we taught. No, more is talk about our own accomplishment, who we are in this process. Who are we in the whole entire landscape of dance industry and business? And what are we missing? And what are the elements that we need help desperately? Mainly in our mind and the physical body or knowledge. And there's also, what's lacking is sometimes our dignity. I will get to it. First topic I want to talk about is the importance of establishing your own business brand. Branding. This is a new catch word. I think this word came to seeing the last 10, 15 years. Before that, I never heard of brand. I talk about brand, Coca-Cola. We talk about Toyota is a car or anything like that, Ford and now Elon Musk. Well, Elon Musk became a brand itself for Tesla. So what are we talking about here? Branding to ourselves, to our business. First thing, our mind go-to is what? Is, let's say, a website, right? We have a beautiful logo to our school, or we have a beautiful Instagram account. What else can go into to establish our own brand? In this particular case, the branding that I'm talking about, what we are really try to establishing. So beyond the superficial things, beyond the beautiful logo, and beyond perhaps, or even a uniform. What is the really important aspect to our professional brand? I'll give you one example. One time I was a jury member of a competition, and I was a jury member, and I look at it, this is a group ensemble section of this competition. So we have a larger ensemble, so it's a bigger piece, and has sets, very big, sizable sets on stage. Then when the piece is changing from one piece to the other, as a group of staff, teachers, perhaps, I didn't know, ran on stage to remove the sets. This has to happen in a very organized way, and it has to be done very fast. Guess what I saw among the staff and the crew member and teachers? The director of the school. So I don't think everybody recognized it, but I recognized that the director of the school was a part of that crew, helping everybody to remove the sets. Now, this is a very small detail, right? This is a very small detail. She wasn't dressed differently. She wasn't acting differently. She's just one of the crew. But for me, to me, that's a business branding to me, because from that little detail, I saw a company essence. I saw a company energy. I saw the leadership quality in that company. So that little detail, to me, is a part of branding. Not necessarily she did on purpose, but from that little incident, it gave me a very in-depth feeling about that school, because if the director is that involved in everyday business, it tells me something about the school, right? We're talking about that. So I am thinking here, coming to details, and I break down to a few different elements, including, first of all, talk about branding. One of the most important quality come to my mind is consistency. So in terms of consistency, that we are talking about our knowledge first. We have to be consistent with our knowledge. We have to be consistent with what we teach. So whatever the style, the method that we're teaching every day, that has to be a uniformity in terms of every teacher, in every classroom, the things coming out of our demonstration, come out of verbal instructions, it has to have a branding, has to have a brand behind everything that we taught. So this is consistency in our curriculum, consistency in our knowledge. And second, this is a little bit elusive, is consistency to me is important. We have to be consistent with our emotions. Now, when everything is beautiful, everything is smooth, and everything is working perfectly, and we always have our emotion in check, and we can always put a happy face, we can always be pleasant to the students, to the parents, to the community. So what about when things are not going well? What about things actually going really bad? What do you think if there's an emergency, if it's something that is almost catastrophe? So this is the time, I think, consistency with our discipline, with our emotion, that we all have to keep that in mind. That's a part of your business in terms of customer service, in terms of how we are with our teachers, how we are with our colleagues, and how we are with our students. Then I wanted to talk about our knowledge. Consistency with our knowledge. What does that mean? So you have a studio owner, a lot of them, a lot of you, and I see when you register, your studio owners. And we are seeing a lot of teachers as well. So the entire company, in terms of how well you know about what you teach, it is not an easy or a quick fix. It is required from the leadership all the way to the youngest junior teacher. Everything has to be clear and transparent. Everything has to be very well established in terms of what we teach. Now, a lot of teachers, a lot of school, I know teach RED, and if you teach Vaganova, and everybody has to be on the same page with what we teach. So it's just the knowledge of the school. We're gonna go a little deeper about that later on. Now, in terms of customer service, every business talk about branding, that the customer feedback, in this case, who is our customer? The customer is the students and the parents. They're all customers. They're all business. So business has a customer expectation, what we serve. In this particular case, we have to establish something I call tangible goals. What is the tangible goals in our everyday service to our students, to our community, to our parents? Is one thing. This is something I wrote that to me it is important. For example, this is the one thing that I think is important. Our goal as a teacher in the classroom, we have to make sure the students, upon exiting the class, let's say you have a 90-minute class, when the 90-minute class finishes, you need to expect, this is the expectation of ourselves as teachers. You want to make sure that students, when they exit the stage, exit the studio, simply put, they're happy, they're excited, they're sweaty, and they felt they have accomplished something. That something can be very small. Not necessarily they have done 3 turns, not necessarily they have accomplished something they never accomplished before. But our goal as a business, what we need to expect ourselves to do is when students leave the studio, they feel the joy. They feel a sense of success and accomplishment. And they're excited about coming back the next day. This is, to me, talk about winning as an individual teacher, as a school owner. This is one thing we can do to ensure the entire business outlook is bright, is positive. Not necessarily a class or one studio winning a competition, no. I'm talking about everybody, everyone you serve in the studio, that when they leave the class, when they leave a rehearsal, even at 9:30 at night, they feel happy. They have no question or something that negative in their mind, negative in their body upon exiting that school. So, to me, this is one single thing. Now, I'm going to talk about how we can get there in a second. But this is one thing that I feel it's important to establish a winning posture, a winning expectation to ourselves as professionals. And I teach online classes, I teach in-person classes, and to me, students' feelings, actually, it's very interesting. I teach online classes because it's a flash screen. I can see very clearly whether students, their body posture, it's very clear. I don't need to turn around to see a student. Everything's flat on TV. And since we're in the body language business, I can always tell a student whether they come in, some students come in, they're ready to go, they're absolutely ready. But I can absolutely tell sometimes some students come in, they're bothered. They're either feeling down or they're not organized, or I can see the expression of the face, they're not into it, they're tired. Perhaps the parents make them do it, and perhaps they have a lot of homework, and everything was not ready, internet, everything. But my goal, I ask for myself, my goal is that by the end of the class, they must be in a better mood. Physically, in a better condition, and mentally, in the better mood after I teach them the 90-minute class. That is something, it must happen. It must happen. And it is not through how many times I told them how amazing they look, how beautiful they look, how great, you're doing a great job. This empty compliments, recognition doesn't mean anything. My job as a teacher is make sure through my exercises, through the tempo of the exercise, through the content of exercises, their body, they are going to warm themselves up. I'm not talking about the temperature warm in terms of body warmth. I'm talking about their mind. I'm talking about slowly open their mind, accept new information, and having the things that bother them disappears. The positive things, the music, the exercise start coming into their body. And this is truly a beauty of what we do. Of course, training students, it's not always a happy journey. I get it. There's a lot of, it can be very strenuous, and sometimes it can be very, very frustrating experience. But for us, as a winning business, as a winning teacher, coach, this is one thing that to me it is important. And this is something I wanted. Like last weekend, we had a live stream for nearly 7 hours straight. In 10 minutes, this is something I asked myself to do. In 10 minutes, I want this student to leave me after the 10 minutes. They know something they didn't know before. Their body have to experience something they never experienced before. And I want that. I want that out of my teaching. I will do anything. I will go deeper. I will refine. I will go all the details. I want to make sure that happens. That is something that I ask myself to do. And I think that for every winning school teachers, please try it. And it's a hard journey, but I think reward is tremendous. Tangible goals, yeah? And we have to, out of one class, this is very specific, we have to find one thing. Now, you say, how do you make a student feel good and happy leaving classroom if I don't see something? You will see if you look. Because you know what ballet teachers do. You know what do we do? We give corrections, correct? That's what we do. We look for the problems. Even a tendu, a combination, we look for issues. However, if you look for every issues that we see, it should be there's something positive. There's something this student does so well. It is there as long as you look for it. So for me, it's like a cooking. There's ratio, 50-50. So it's like 50 volume flour and then the 15 water. For me, it's 50-50. So for every correction I give to a student, you all needed to accompany by a solution. Okay, so that's correction part. I give a correction, you need to give a solution. I don't give a correction without a solution. You have to give an idea how to fix it. So the correction does not become a comment. Right? You see the difference between a correction and a comment. So correction needs to have a solution to help them solve the problem. Then for every correction this student receives, I would like to recognize something that this student does well. This is a healthy partner because when they realize they do something well, they would more likely to keep it, whatever that they did well. But if you don't recognize it, they won't keep it to something they do well. Yeah? So every correction, let's say they did something needs to be corrected, but if you let it go, the issue will never get solved by itself. That we know very well. So we have to present issue, and we have to solve the issue. Done. What's after that is when they do something well, we have to recognize, or we have to reward them by a recognition. It doesn't need to be elaborate language, but it has to be recognized. I saw that. Sometimes I just say, I saw that, keep it. That's it. When I was a student, when that teacher said that to me, I could be happy for a whole week because we don't get a lot of recognition at all. So that it was important for me as a student. I always wanted that recognition, that little bit of reward, a little bit of recognition that something, even as I see you today, you worked very hard, something like this. Even you didn't see anything technically they did well, but you recognized they worked hard, they were focused. And it doesn't take much for their spirits to lift and they keep coming back to the studio and keep coming back to your class and to your school. And progress report. So the feedback, let's say when we're in academic school, we always have, what's the feedback about how you're doing? It's the homework, right? To see how well you do with your homework and exams. So as a ballet school, we don't have that kind of exam, that many type of, the mini assessment, midterm, finals, we don't have that kind of structure. However, I believe it is important to set up a systematic progress report. So this is a way for us to establish a very tight and very professional communication between you and your students and the parents, the family. And you have to understand the parents, most of them, probably all of them, are very well accomplished business people, or they're not in the artistic business, but they know how the business is communicated outside the dance world. So I do believe that a progress report, it is a good way to keep that communication with what the students does. It could just be a very simple form. And this is what my school has, a very simple form, and says what you needed to work on, what's lacking, what's improving. Could be just something very simple to keep that hook, to keep that communication channel open. And this is how I feel. This is important to bring the parents on your team. So parents, you should bring them into your school, into the structure as your partner, as somebody can help you. Because parents really don't know. Now, I'm going to spend next 2 hours after we finish here with the parents, because they have another set of feelings, because they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted to help. They wanted to feel the sense of accomplishment and success their children feeling. And they wanted to be a part of a problem-solving mechanism, right? So we have to use that. I'm a dance teacher. I'm a ballet teacher. I'm also a ballet parent. So I would like to know how my children's doing in their ballet school, right? So this communication is very important for us. And also, if the students need something to work on, I always like the clipboard. Create something that students need to work on, and have at home, like homework, and have your parents to be a part of that, the team, to secure the consistency, the fact they're working at home, and have them to be on your side, to have that kind of report with you. So this is just a few things that I think we can do immediately to establish a brand. There's a very little, some of the things are detailed things. But what about as a business? I have worked with studio owners, small school, big school as well. A part of the quality to represent the quality of the organization is the communication. So, for example, I written inquiry in an email, and how the email come back to me, how the email was written, and right away, that email itself, it represents an outlook of that business. And I have very different experiences, some of them absolutely fantastic. And I read the email, it's just business, thorough, detailed, kind, everything. And from that to no response. And it could be there could be a reason behind everything. But I do believe communication, it's like your calling card. It's like your business card. And how we are dealing with, communicate with our colleagues. Later on, I'm going to talk about create a beautiful environment that you create around you. Also is essential to have a successful business. I want to move forward to the next topic, which is the importance of teachers' training and professional readiness. So we actually have more than 400 teachers sign up for this session, and obviously we're going to send a recording of this to them for various reasons. They are not on Zoom, but we have unbelievable. We have 400 students sign up for this session. And here's the things to talk about importance of teacher training and professional readiness. I when I was at school the first year, and I remember my teacher, I had two teachers. One is a Ming teacher, is a more experienced teacher. He's the Ming teacher. Then he had a teacher's assistant. This teacher he just graduated, and he became a teacher, but he's not ready to teach a class by himself. So he's apprentice. He's sit there taking notes and learn how to be a teacher. So that process actually in my school is pretty lengthy. It has to go through a very serious procedures so they allow you to actually have a class of your own. So why is it important to go through the apprentice stage? Because we in ballet teachers, we have certification, right? If you are RAD teacher, you can be certified as a teacher, and basically to allow you to teach a ballet class. But to me, it is, in order for you to be a confident, thorough, and a detailed and effective professional teacher, I don't think just a paper certification is enough. And what's lacking to that is time and experience and the appropriate apprentice period in our teaching journey. One, first observation, just purely watching other teacher teaching, just watching, observation. So as a school owner, now we have a lot of school owner right here. And I don't believe that upon hiring a teacher, let's say a very young teacher, inexperienced, perhaps just certified, I don't believe that she or he is ready to handle a class of students themselves. So that's why I have a lot of comments from teachers, a lot of questions about teaching. So through the questions, I feel that what is really truly lacking is just time, just observation time and a trial and error time, and actually an opportunity to fail. All this is preparing us to be an effective, I don't want to say good or bad, as an effective teacher, because I do believe each teacher is unique. They all have their strengths, weaknesses. I personally did not go to a formal school that says certification, become certified of allowing me to teach in certain kind. My teaching skill or experience is purely come from experience, purely from teaching a lot of classes and watched a lot of classes, taught by many, many different teachers. And I went to a very serious school. So you combine all that together, that's what I have. And actually written a curriculum, that prerequisite for graduation for university, and the title of the course is Method of Teaching Technique course. Actually, I teach a course to how to teach it. And everything that I know about this is come from experience, period. Because there's no one really can teach you how to teach. Your knowledge has to come experience and has come within. So respect the time, apprentice stage, observation, and the clarity of your expectation as a teacher. So you have a period of teaching, observation, then progressively moving to teach a technique class alone, right? That, again, as a studio owner, we have to observe, because I went to Washington School of Ballet when I came to America. Mary Day was a legendary teacher for American, truly one of the founding person to establish a vocational school, one of the very first vocational school in America. School of Washington Ballet was a boarding school. And she actually went to Russia in the height of Cold War to learn how to establish a vocational school in America. And what actually she did, my memory when I was in school, my memory is she just go to every studio watching. She sit there with a box of Kleenex and she sit there watching class. And after class, she would give teachers a lot of notes. So we were always worried that she comes in and watching us, everything. No, she was in classroom watching how teacher teaches, and she will have the teacher have the conversation with her and give her notes how to make progress, give the notes how to make changes in her teaching, in her vocabulary, how she deliver, teacher should deliver an educational content. She also trained pianists as well. So for the school owner, you want it to be earlier point, we talk about consistency in your teaching, how to establish that is absolutely from observation and watch and have that quality control. Literally everything that the teacher say coming out of their mouth, the way they demonstrate, it needs to be guided. It needs to be evaluated and have a proper assessment, just like how you are with your students. Teachers need your help, especially young teachers. This is to the studio owners, to the director of the school. So I don't believe a young teacher should be giving a class right away alone. And I don't think they're ready to coach variation either. So I'm gonna talk about that. At which point, what is the benchmark they have to reach in order for them to coach a variation properly? So a development of a teacher, talk about the readiness, the preparation for coaching variation and prepare students for competitions. This is a whole other element in addition to their knowledge of teaching technique class. So the progress of developing a teacher, very similar to it's very similar to the development of a dancer. A development of a dancer needs to have technical sufficient, not only sufficient, the technical requirement that need for her or him to dance a classical variation alone. There's certain things that it needs to be in place before the variation class can be installed. That we all can agree with that. But with the teacher, it's exactly the same thing. The progress is very, very similar. They need to teach a technique class properly before they can coach a student, because there's things that in there, there's a mechanism in those knowledge and experience needs to be there before they can be one-on-one coaching variation. So that's a two separate thing. Yeah, technique class, variation coaching. So the progress, it needs to be very similar to develop a dancer in order to develop a maturing a young teacher. And then it's the brand building. We talk about building a brand. Building a brand is not as difficult as keep the image, keep the quality of a brand. You can spend the money, you can hire a very beautiful graphic designer to get you a nice logo, you can have a uniform, you can have a nice building, you can have a nice website, everything. But that's just superficial. In order to keep the quality of a brand of your business needs everyday work. So here I'm talking about professional reputation, yeah. So when I was working at Kirov Academy in Washington here, and the executive director, really lovely lady. She and I, at one point, we talk about reputation, and she told me a story, basically saying that if something is done, something, let's say, unpleasant, something is said about something, or something is just not at the moment where emotional height a moment, and it could be exchange with the parents, okay? It could be exchange with the student because you're just frustrated, we're human. Now, when it was asked, can you take this back? Can you undo what you did? Let's say an email, okay, anything you written, email, a text, or social media, it's out forever. Eternity, forever, yeah? So if something you did, something you said, this is difficult, this is the discipline of the business we're talking about, discipline to keep a brand beautiful, to keep the quality of the brand require everyday work. And every moment of it needs discipline to keep it. So lady told me, Okay, it's possible. How? You know the feather pillow, there's a lot of feather in there, the very soft, big pillow with the feather in there. So you take this pillow with millions, feathers in there. You go to the tallest building of the city, you cut this pillow open, you let the feather go. Until you gather every single piece back. You can have that back. Is gather every single piece of the feather back. Is that possible? It's not possible. So things that come out, it's for the eternity. So what's difficult is at the heated moment, we have to keep it cool. That message, that email does not have to reply right away. That conversation does not have to happen at this moment when everybody is at height of their emotions. Something you felt was unfair with a jury member, the fact that your students scored low, this conversation does not really have to happen. So it takes discipline, takes a strong emotion to keep it or brand strong. The next topic, this is a little bit related, but I want to move forward. The next one, the topic is truly connected to the first one. It's mastering the art of teaching technique class allows you to coach variation with confidence and produce results. So earlier topic, we talk about the technique class component and why this has to happen first. A teacher, why is it important? This teacher needs to know how to teach a technique class. This component will prepare you to be a resourceful and result-driven coach. One, the simple, very simple, is detecting and solving the issues, detecting, a correction giving. So we see there's 3 stages to this. First stage is recognize an issue. As a teacher, we have to see what the problem is, right? We have to have a good eye, have a very professional eye to have the knowledge to see the issue is. That's just stage 1. Just point out the issues, whatever it might be. Demi releve too low, sickling the foot, rotate in, bend the knee, whatever that is. You needed to be able to see the issue, to see something wrong with it. Stage 1. Second stage is on top of that, knowing the issue, but have the ability and knowledge and experience to fix the issue. Yeah, not only we see the problem, but we are resourceful enough, experienced enough, have enough knowledge and experience to help the students to solve the issue. Number 2. Number 3 is the highest stage of teaching, which is teach the students self-correct the issue. That's the highest moment is for the students themselves, looking at themselves in a mirror, or feel the turn, feel the supporting leg, how she fell out of the turn, self-analyze, self-correct, give themselves a tool to fix the next turn. That's the highest stage of our teaching. So your students not only relying on your correction, relying every day. Like when I was a student, I was so afraid my teacher is not there. Every time I went on stage, I look at him. Because my school, that kind of teaching, we complete mindless teaching. They want us to be complete obedient, have no room for us to think. I don't want that. The highest stage is for the students to have a self-awareness, knowing something wrong about their turns, their jumps, or musicality, and have the tools and confidence and knowledge themselves to correct them. That's a beautiful stage to be. So in all cases, we need to recognize, solving the issue, and teach students self-correct. Second, finding individual pathways to succeed. Not in ballet class, not all roads to Rome. It's not like that. Let's say this A student in this class. you know very well, this 8 students in your class, they all have different, they're all unique. They all have very different learning habits, strength and weakness, some as jumper. In my school, when I went to school, I had turned out to 16 students, 16 boys into class, 2 classes. A year later, become 1. When I graduated, 50% students had to let go. So it's the rate of 50%. But all of us has something to offer. We have one of my classmates is an unbelievable jumper, beautiful jumps. We have one of my classmates can turn. He can turn upside down, the other way around, everything. And we have another student of mine, beautiful feet and the legs, everything. So individual uniqueness must be cherished. So as a teacher, we have to find individual success pathways for them to experience their own success, not necessarily a success in common, like in your determination, that whether success is winning a competition or to do turns and to be lead in something, or always remember the combination, the one that always answer the question, the ones that always be on time and on the music. But recognize, find the strength from individual students to recognize the uniqueness and finding a pathway for them to feel a sense of success. And that's something I think we need to be aware. And also what comes down to is it's really our job requirement to be that sensitive, to be that intuitive, to detect each student's strength and weaknesses. How about self-esteem? Is the self-esteem important in our business, in our classroom? Yes, it is. I think the development of self-esteem, it is one of the essential quality that we have to establish with our students. So this have everything to do with how we communicate with our students. And I think this is a byproduct why students in dance classes, we all know that it's like a pyramid, right? Very few of them actually is going to go on become professional dancers and to go on to do something in their professional lives, still have dance element to it, right? So the goal of that is there. However, it's not for everyone. But for everyone else, for them to participate dance classes, a part of the result is boost their self-confidence, self-awareness, and intuitive to the body, to their mind, sensitivity to others, to music, to the posture, to their physical body and mind, and to build the individual strength and confidence and discipline. This all the qualities that needs to be installed in your teaching. So the pathway to success, not only winning the performance, winning the competition, but also boost confidence in them as an individual, as a respectful individual. Now, the word I use at this moment, respectful. How do we create somebody with self-respect, with self-esteem, beautiful self-image and confidence? Because we have to talk them in ways to culture, to motivate, to nurture this kind of attitude for them. That have everything to do is how we communicate with them and how we give them corrections and how not purposefully and or indirectly hurting their self-esteem, because this is not something that we aware every day, and I see happens in dance studios. I see how the students are communicated with their teachers are not helpful. Let me just put it this way. Details. Some of the details I can be focused on with you. How about calling the teachers by their first name? That should absolutely no, because that confuses students. If you allow this to happen in the studio, if student looking at you and just say your first name, or even say good morning, Karen, this is not helpful. Yeah, it has to be the title of you, and it is not superficial. It's not just a formality. It puts students in a very, very beautiful place where respect is naturally to be installed. And this is a very helpful communication when we're in the studios, because they put them in a very beautiful place for learning, not necessarily as a friend at the same level with you. This is, and believe me, you have to understand, you're not their friends, you're their teacher, you're their guardian, you're their protector, you're their coach, you're not their friends. And I think the minute we put ourselves in the friends level at this moment in society, it could be very confusing for them. So boost their confidence and self-esteem in their everyday practice. We have to feel the fulfillment. At the end of the class, we'll talk about that, and this is your professional practice. We solving that already. And I think in order for us to move forward to as a successful coach, some of the whole procedure revolving on giving a class, it is important, because what I see now is if we have a curriculum, let's say RAD, let's just, for example, you have the classes already set for you, right? You have the combinations. What you teach is someone else's combination. So if it's someone else's combination, you don't have the chance to install your intuitive professional knowledge to the tempo and the composition of this combination. I'm just using one combination as an example. So you really don't have control of how you want the speed to be, how the accent is supposed to be, and what you want, particularly what you want to work on in this particular class. So as curriculum, I'm absolutely fine with it. I went through a school with very serious curriculum. However, you need to learn how to give a teach class yourself with the combination that come out of you, naturally, authentically come from you. Every single combination, from plie to tendus. And what type of tendu? Is accent out, accent in? Is it fast and slow to training? What is the essence that you wanted to teach in this particular combination? And how do you give the correction? And what time, what day? Let's say Thursday, I feel like everybody is very tired at this moment, very hard day, the day before, I want to give a slow class. How do you do it? This is the knowledge that you have to have in order for you to coach a variation. Because when you're coaching variation, there is a multiple moments in there require that professional skill. Then you say, I'm going to talk about the next topic. When you look at the phrase, something wrong, let's say, something you internally, you feel there's something wrong with this phrase. And you need to know how to fix it, but we needed to know what's wrong with it. Is the music, is it too slow or too fast? Those skills is all going to come out of the experience, the knowledge, how you teach the technique class. Something wrong with the turn. Something wrong with the connecting step between this jump to that jump. For your eye, you see something wrong. You need to know how to fix it, how to give a correction to fix it, how to give another way to fix it if the one idea you give didn't work. You have to find second path, third way, another way from the other way around, or alteration, change the combination. How do you change it? You cannot do it, change the choreography, can we? We can do it. I'm going to talk about it in a second. Those experiences that we are going to, as an organization, and we are going to systematically go a little deeper, and as we're going to go deeper later on today, to talk about how do we do it? How can we make a passage a little better for the students? And what is the respectful way, what is the correct way to alter a variation, not necessarily looking like this passage, this is too hard for students, I'm just going to take the one important step out without looking like that. So I have seen many variations done on stage. I know very well this moment the teachers wanted to make this passage a little bit simple for this particular student, but they did it in such a beautiful way, such an artistic way, so perfect with such a refinement. For example, instead of a step over, and they do a soutenu, but not yet. After a soutenu, they did something else in return. Technically, this made the student dance with confidence, very comfortable, but we don't feel, because of the students does not feel comfortable to do the step over and turn. We know very well, but it's how it was done and made everything perfect. Everything was beautiful. And this requires a very skillful coach, and it goes back to what I talked about earlier. It takes time. It takes time and experience to make that kind of alteration, to have the confidence to water down the variation, still produce a very refined product. Next topic, I wanted to talk about consistent issues that hold your students back in the competitions. So talk about teaching, training to win. This is, I'm talking about in the competition. This is things that I've seen in the competitions that I want to just point out. This is the communication, this little dialogue between you and I. Number one problem is variation is too difficult. It's simply not necessary. When you introduce a variation, we talk about different versions, right? If you look at internet, you look one Corsair variation, literally have 5 different versions. What we must not do is create a variation, have all the most difficult steps in it. I have seen some students' variation, it's like, professional dancers not even dance like that. So the notion is that the variation is too simple. If it's too simple, they cannot score high. This is wrong notion. It's the quality of execution that really counts. That really have nothing to do with, because it's not gymnastic. Gymnastic goes, okay, you do a triple turn here, you have 5 points. If you step over double and double, 3 times in this variation, you have another 5 points. It adds up, but let me remind you, if you have those, if you say, I'm going to do a triple period here, I'm going to do step over 3 times, doubles, then I'm going to earn that 10 points. In gymnastics, if you didn't do what you say you were going to do, you're actually going to deduct more points. Understand? So they will reward you more if you submit, let's say, I'm going to do step over single 3 times. I'm going to do the double period. If you execute that perfectly, you have higher score. Then you're going to do something that doesn't match what you're going to do. The ballet competition doesn't have that component. But for us, to be completely honest with you, for young child, for young student, I'd rather see a step of perfect single, land in plie, and come up releve, give me a cute smile. I'd rather see this because I see potential, I see training, I see the care. Then carelessly try to do a double period. it doesn't land well, this is something tells me that student is not ready. Sometimes we can see, not sometimes, all the time we can see whether this is just a mistake. This student, we know that have the capacity to do a step over double pirouette, but this is obviously is not her day. We can see that because it's not one technique, it's not one step in that entire variation counts. It's the overall technique presentation counts, right? If the student does everywhere else so perfectly, just the last step over, something goes wrong, her technique is there, right? The level is there. Just something goes wrong because we're human, nervous, competition happens. But when I say that variation is too difficult is when I see the students having issues to executing almost every single step. The students not on their leg. We can feel that they are not on their leg, but they still try to do a double. They still try to do a manège that's so too fast. So variation is too difficult for that student at that moment. And there's two things I want to talk about difficult. One is that variation itself is too difficult, itself, yeah? The other is what? A version is too difficult. That's two very different ideas. This is Bluebird. Bluebird is simple variation, but very, very difficult. A lot of teachers seem to think that Bluebird, just because it's simplicity in musicality, perhaps it's simplicity in the music, and the length of the variation is short. That's why we always choose Bluebird as somebody's first variation. To me, that's a mistake, I'm sorry to say, because Bluebird is very exposed, it's very exposing. If your technique, because look at the forte, it's one of the most difficult things to do. And when the opening phrase is done, if it's less perfect, it can see perfectly. You don't have any room to disguise or hide. This is why Bluebird, in my opinion, always very difficult. Just like when we ask somebody to audition the picture, what do we ask? First arabesque, that's what we ask. You ask the tendu to the side. Because from the first arabesque, we can see the student's training. For me, when I see a Bluebird, when I see a forte turn, it's like I can read that student like a book to see the strength of the supporting leg, to see the flexibility of the arabesque, to see the hip strength, whether she can be on the supporting leg or not. We see everything, like absolutely open book. However, there is a way you can do Bluebird, still can see the student's potential, show her well with perhaps speed. I'm going to talk about this in a second. Slow down a little bit, but not too slow, because when it's too slow, it's hard as well to find the speed absolutely perfect for her and to find a version that she can execute. Maybe it's not forte turn, just to go up to à la seconde, come back to perfect coup de pied and bourrée forward. Do that. If she's not ready to the arabesque, there's no reason to expose her issues in the name of the variation, the version of variation. So we pick, if the stamina isn't there, yes, this could be very good because the Bluebird is short. But we have to pick a version that's suitable for this particular student. Speed. Very important. There's no reason today that we need to have the speed too fast or too slow, because your software, you can use software on your computer. You can edit the music so well. Sometimes I see competitions. I was like sitting there as a jury member. I was like, this is just too fast, just too fast. You can see it, and this is something that it can be fixed almost right away. This student, clearly she is uncomfortable because just too fast. And then too slow, also issue, is as big issue as the music is too fast. We wanted to be slow to show the students the quality of the details, everything to be played out like a beautiful, clear classical ballet manner. But when it's slowed down to the point where we don't see the rhythm, we don't feel the energy, it's also problematic. So this is what I see. Variation too difficult, speed too fast or too slow. Those things that can be fixed. It can be fixed easily. then inappropriate change of choreography. Now, you just said, you can say, well, you just said you can change a little bit. You can change. You can change from fouetté to the à la seconde to coup de pied, bourrée forward. But yes, in this bluebird, perhaps in this variation, you have only 2 or 3 choices in this particular case. You can have à la seconde, bourrée forward, you can do fouetté, and what else you can do? You can do perhaps, if you don't want to do à la seconde 3 times, you can do start with à la seconde 2 times, right, left. You can do fouetté 1 and fouetté 2, and then come back to do the à la secondes. Those are your choices, but you cannot change a choreography to an unrecognizable stage. I have seen variation. It was I'll give you a perfect example. It was Coppelia, and that child on stage did not do one step, not even one step. It's actually difficult to do. Not even one step from Coppelia. It's not child's fault, but you cannot change choreography to an unrecognizable state. That won't work, right? In a ballet company anyway. Also, we have to understand in each variation, there is at least 3 signature steps you cannot change. There's 3 signature things in this particular variation that you absolutely cannot change. If the students, this is how you evaluate, if the students have problem to do one of those 3 things at this moment in her technical ability, she cannot do this variation. So for example, we use the bluebird as an example. In the end, the very last diagonal, you don't have multiple choice. You have to chassé en tournant. You can have piqué turns. You can have step over turns. But if you have problem with all 3 of those options that I'm talking about, she's not ready for this variation, because those steps needs to be taught and executed in somewhat a shape of form. You can see the shape, you can see the form of those steps before she can do this variation. Or échappé, en down a corner. Échappé second, whatever that you do afterwards, but she has to do the échappé correctly, right? She has to go to échappé, show her arch. She's not sitting on her pinky, her pelvis not pulling back, her knees is not forward. That échappé has to be in somewhat correct form, right? You have the fouetté, you have the échappé, legs, students feel the legs, and you have the very last diagonal. Okay, to me, this student is ready to learn, at least to be coached, right? So we cannot say, all right, you don't know how to do piqué turns, but you want to do the bluebird. We're just to do bourrée forward to a pas de chat, bourrée forward to a pas de chat. You cannot change. You cannot create a variation that loses its essential steps. Yeah, inappropriate change the choreography. Next, no upper body and port de bras. So for us, let's say if I was judging a competition, I see a student. You can see this student is not very flexible, or it doesn't have a perfect turnout, but this student has a beautiful épaulement, beautiful upper body, beautiful musicality. I give her a lot of very high score. You know why? Because that's a very smart teacher. This is a very good coach there, knowing the issues, her shortcomings because of turned out flexibility. But she spent a lot of time coaching her upper body with the épaulement, with the musicality, the things that she can do well. She did it very well. Expression, with proper arms, fingers, intentionality with the choreography. At that moment, I'm good. I'm good because I know she will continue to work on the turned out, work on the turns, work on the flexibility, work on her arabesque. But what she can do at this moment, she did it. She did it very well. Those are the things that we cannot get stop our vision just because the student does not have perfect everything, the perfect three things. The perfect feet turned out in flexibility. If we don't see three, we just hands up. There's nothing we can do. It's not true. It's up to us to find the strength of the student, because it is there if you can just look beyond what you see in front of you, which is that three things I just talked about. Work on the things that is tangible. Work on the things that at this moment she can work on. I just say three things: port de bras, musicality, and perfect epaulement, expression. I swear I give a high score because I love that kind of approach. So make sure, and again, if I see students have beautiful feet, have all the facility waist down, but doesn't have any expression, no arms, no epaulement, I give low score. So you be the judge. So this is how I'm going to approach to this, because I see things that completely being neglected, only focus on the turns and the jumps, complete neglect on the things that a young dancer is supposed to focus on. Enter and exit the stage. Now, this is the things that hold the student back, the entering and exiting the stage. I'm going to go a little bit deeper about that. So after you enter the stage, the opening steps, let's say Coppelia, that diagonal, that diagonal right here. Okay, half the diagonal, half, 1/8. Da 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 da. First phrase. Okay. Three things can happen in this thing right here. What I just sang. Opening phrase, half the diagonal. One, for the judges just to be to dismiss. Now, why I say this? Why I say dismiss? Because they already made up their mind. How you enter that stage, and that first 8, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4 measures. They already made up the mind. They're not going to, because from what they saw, they're not interested to see what's next. This is how cruel this is. This is how brutal this business is. Because I already saw everything I needed to see. Because it doesn't take much, doesn't take a perfect facility for you to enter the stage. Does it, ladies? Does it? Doesn't. It's the mannerism. It's how you take your steps onto stage, how you take the position, how you face to the audience, how you say, I'm Swan Helder, come to this town square, beautiful morning. You can do that beautifully when you walk on stage. I already see Swan Helder walking down. The first phrase, 4 things. You do it with clarity, you do it with care, not necessarily do 100 turns. I see that version to be very complicated, nowadays, just because competition promote the technical advancement, which is beautiful. But in the waist, if somebody does it with such a clarity, with the sensibility, with beautiful, the attitude held, and the beautiful little pas de bras en tournant, everything like that, if those things not done well, if those things not done clearly, or look like it's being coached to care for, one outcome is dismissed. Because they're not interested to see what's after that. They already made up their mind. They already categorize you as a such. Number 2, curiosity. They're curious because they see something, but they missed something, right? They see something, okay, this could be very interesting. So they continue to watch. They haven't made up their mind yet. So that 4 measure that the student did upon walk on stage, it creates curiosity. They want to see the potential. They want to move forward to see what the students can do. They haven't really made up their mind about how they're going to score yet. Okay? So this is actually a very good stage because the student captured their imagination. So, but the job for the student is very difficult because she has to spend restful combination, restful variation to convince this judge that she is well trained, she has a very high quality. There isn't much room for mistakes, okay? Because the judge's imagination can go a positive way or it could go a negative way. So it's the uphill battle in the way for this particular student, right? Everything has to be, it has to go in the direction of the jury member feel there's a potential, feel there's something there, that you have to proving to them there is something there. Second is curious and they investigate. Third is they already made up their mind. The fifth phrase, you fell flat on stage. Oh, so bad. Oh, so beautiful. Look how she fell. If you do this right, no matter what you do rest of it, they will just say, oh, just simple mistake. That child is so talented. She's so unbelievable. This is how unfair it is, quote unquote unfair it is. Because in that 4 measures, or this entire diagonal, they saw a well-trained, well-disciplined, with the potential, and a student that it deserved very high score. And I always say this is like the 3rd floor. There's a lot of people at the 2nd category, the curious, investigate. Number 2, a lot of them there. But the one I'm talking about, the rest of it, the 3rd one already made up their mind. At the first diagonal, the judges already made up their mind. This requires a lot of work when everything has to be right, because have everything to do with how convincing the students to convince the jury member. She is a swan Hilda. She walked on stage just like in the full-length ballet, and she has all the potential in the world, although she's only 13, 12 years old. They saw the potential. They saw a young star in the making. They see a young professional. They saw, it's almost empathetic. They already invoked something in them to give you a high score. And I have seen students that way. For example, YGP is like 100, like who gives 100? Nobody is 100. I have given a score 99.9 or 99.8. This is the highest score I ever give. I was like in love. I love the students right already there. It's because of the vulnerability. She's not afraid to show her vulnerability. She's not afraid to show her step onto point, not sure, but she used her strength and her the power. She put herself on it. Then I saw the brave. Oh, that's the word I want to see. She's brave. She's not afraid. She went in there with the turn, and she nailed those turns with joy, and she gave everything on that stage. She touched me. 2 minutes variation. And that scoring, it's emotional. For judge to score something 99.8, it's emotional. It's out of their character because they have to love the students so much, they don't care. I want the students to go to New York. She deserves, I want a few years later, this student, if this is the pathway to go somewhere, we will see her somewhere. I've seen it. YGP has, for example, they're using the competition as a example. I have seen students became very big later on because I saw them when they were young because they already showed the quality. It is possible. So that's the 3rd stage. Now, this is why we talked about how important it is for you to go on stage, because when you enter the stage, belong to the opening phrase, okay? So these other things can be done, can be trained, and it will be not in a good form if the things that you can do, it didn't do well, okay? So make sure. Entering, exiting stage is the very last the impression you leave to the public, to the judges and jury members, all the way exiting the stage. This is also a very good opportunity for you to regain the good impression from the jury member, or everything's going so well, could go the other way. The way you exit the stage, if it's not well done, and they're going to be affected at school, because right after that, their pen is on that number, correct? Right after that. So this have everything to do with everything. So make sure things that you can do, you do it perfectly. Unflattering or wrong costume. This is, I think, now I see beautiful, absolutely glorious costume out of the young student. It's just great. But I also see the costume are from the wrong ballet. The color, let's say Paquita. Paquita should not be pink or any other color. It should be white, gold, black, red, because it's Spanish, right? It has to be in those colors. Paquita should not be glitter and the pink and this kind of colors. So at least with the color, the style has to fit with the ballet, not just as beautiful, as much glitter is there as possible. So make sure. Unflattering, what does that mean here? What I say? Size wrong, right? These things that it's detail, but you have to understand it bothers the students dancing on stage. Also, it doesn't give them a very confident look, and also affect on the overall impression from the jury members' costume. What about music? Poor quality and wrong speed of the music. Yeah, there's absolutely no excuse for us to record, use our phone to a YouTube live performance. That you think I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Yes, you will be surprised how many times I hear students dancing with the music. Literally, it was recorded over the computer from a YouTube video. Because I hear the audience clapping, I hear the point shoots from the video hitting the floor, I hear the comments from it. There's no excuse for that. Yeah, all these things are going to affect the overall impression of the child's performance. And this is up to you, this is up to us teachers to prevent that happen. Things just like any product, it has to be absolutely as perfect as possible, because the variables are so great. The variable is what? Step over turns, a beautiful soda shot. Those are variables you can control. But what's things that you can control that we have to do absolutely perfect? Next topic, the importance of building a collegial, supportive, and respectful professional environment for us. What does that mean? Your professional environment is like your home. It's like your home, right? The home, in our case, is our colleagues. It's the parents. It's the community that we live in. It's the theater. It's your landlord. It's the social media. It's your team. It's the costume maker. It's the lighting designer. It's everything that needs to be lived in your environment. This is your world. Needs to be protected and cherished. And after all, this environment can be very supportive, can be very respectful, and can be a beautiful place that where we thrive together. This is the most important. I think this is the ideal scenario. But of course, it's a competitive world. I mean, thinking about it, the title of this event is called Train to Win. It's a competitive event. But I do believe that even in the competitive environment, we can still thrive together, because I always say there's enough students out there, there's enough opportunity out there, there's enough competition out there for all of us to live. Number one, communication. Communication. This is what we just talked about, how we talk to people. who we are and how we are online, on social media, and how we solving problems, how we deal with conflict. And this goes back to the very first topic, which is your professional integrity, your professional outlook, and your professional brand about who you are. And so please, and I think all of us, and there's certainly something that I want to do. I have been in the dance scene for many years. This is the only thing I know. And I was a dancer for nearly 20 years. I think many people that you see that are supporting me and perhaps wanting to collaborate, to work with me, did not just know me for one day, right? People know me for many years. And some people know me when I came to America as a young dancer. And they witnessing how I progressed my professional life as long as my private life for many, many years. So along the way, of course, there are turbulence, there's tumultuous times, there are controversy along the way because we're human. However, the core of who I am, who we are, has been pretty consistent. And I'm going to spend rest of my professional career to keep that integrity. And because I believe that who we are is the people, the environment that we live in, and is the people who surround us, who support us, and each other. So at this moment, I wanted to, of course, I'm out of time, just like how I always, things like this, I always late. But I do want to go to a question and answer period of this talk, because I talked to you earlier. There's more than 400 students, more than 400 teachers signed up for this session, and when they sign up this session, just like we ask them provide the questions that they might have for us, and there's a 50-some question came, but it's really more than that because there's one teacher asked multiple questions. But add all together, I picked 5 questions at this moment for me to answer them, and I think we can learn something along the way as I answer them. So the first thing, talk about how do you choose a variation that suits your competing student? How do we choose a variation? And is there, first, there's 2 questions combined. Is there such a thing as an easy variation? Simply answer this, is how do I choose a variation for a competing student? I choose 2 factors. One is the technical readiness. We talked about this earlier. So we have to see the strength, technical strength of this dancer. If this dancer is a jumper, perhaps she jumps very well. Of course, I'm going to choose a variation to show her strength, of course. Technical readiness. Yeah, if this student is not a turner, is not comfortable and confident with the turning, I will not choose a variation full of turns, right? That just, we have to analyze that way. Second factor I choose a variation for the dancers is their temperament. Their temperament. I like to see, I take a look at this student and the personality, the sensitivity, and the general sensibility of the dancer. Which variation or music suit her or him the best? So this is something that I think it's as important as their technical readiness. Because some students is a Giselle, some students is Gimzadi, some students is a let's say forest version of the section of the Paquita. So you have to play the music to see the temperament of the student who meets, if that music sings that student to you, right? This needs to, the second one's called artistically, the first one's technically. So this needs a little investigation. Is there such a thing as an easy variation? I think not. Because the ballet, it is not really about, if anything talk about easy, I have to say one element is the length of the variation, the length of it. Because the length of the variation, if the variation at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, the maximum length of a competition length, just purely from stamina point of view, some variations are only 1.5 minutes, some variation 2 minutes and a half. So that 1 minute in differences, to me, it could be represent the easier or difficult. The length speaks the most volume in terms of easy and difficult. But from the ballet technique point of view, they really are the same, because from technical point of view, the ballet technique asks each variation to produce a same excitation, same thing. A jump, a saute is saute. A plie relevé is plie relevé. It doesn't matter what appears in what variation. It could be a different port de bras. It could be a different character, just like what we right here. So the next question says, if the Princess Florine or Cupid or Silver Fairy, which is to me one of the very difficult variations, and I see a lot of children doing it, are easy variations. How can the students stand out and stand the chance of winning when other competitors will do much harder variations like a key tree or Esmeralda? Now, winning a competition, in this particular case, the key tree and Esmeralda, it's very interesting. This question came with these two variations. These two variations required a very strong personality and emotions. And very strong personality emotions, and comes with a various complexity in emotions and in manipulation of the step. Not the step itself, it's the manipulation of the step, because Esmeralda still step over and period is period, right? Double period or triple period in retrograde position, it's the same in this variation and that variation. From technical expectation point of view, it's the same. But the two variations that this teacher just mentioned, the key tree and Esmeralda, required very strong presence, very strong personality. So that part, if it was done right, it's easily to winning something or get higher score, just because the variation itself is more impactful. You understand? It's easier for us to get excited than perhaps Silver Fairy variation. But from technical point of view, silver variation is as hard as key tree. It's just in the different places. So we have to understand, to me, it's the length of the variation and the complexity in the role that makes difficult to maneuver, and not necessarily from a ballet technical point of view, because the turn is turn, and susu is susu, and relevant fifth is fifth. It appears in every variation, it's the same. So the next is multiple questions, and this is going to be pretty complex. I want to read first. So it says, as a sole teacher / studio owner, I am limited in the number of classes and the studio hours I can offer my students. How do I get results for my students when I only see them 2 and 3 times a week? So this goes back to our original, one of the topics that I talk about, is you have to set tangible expectations. You have to set reachable short-term and long-term expectations. So if a student, you only see them 2 or 3 times a week, has its own set of goals to reach. Even if I only see them 1 time a week, but we have to set up goals, what we want to achieve in the next 2 months, let's say in next 8 sessions, what we like to achieve. So for us to have a plan, for us to have a reachable, tangible goal, set up a plan. I believe even you see them once a week, you can still set up a plan. Let's say this week I see you, and this is the class we take, and here's the homework you're going to do. Next week when I see you, I expect to see the improvements over these 2 things. Reachable goal, these 2 things. I want to see the differences of these 2 things. I want you to remember this combination. Perhaps you can even record a class for the students to take home. And put all that, give a part of responsibility to the parents, for them to be a part of it. And the next time we come back, we still do the same combination. We can even check in the day before. This is all work, but it's just a part of it. How are we doing? Set up every night homework. This is what 20 minutes you spend before you go to bed. Stretch your feet, work on your plie, work on the particular the combination. So when the next day comes, we work on tendus. Instead of focus on plie, we work on tendus. And then we set up a tendu homework for this student to learn for the rest of the week. Planning, it's all about planning. It's not about, you can see students 6 times a week without a goal, we don't produce results. So that's my plan. Have a plan, have a goal, have a strategy. Even for once a week, you can still produce results if we've done it correctly, if we've done with intention and detail. So I have a 13-year-old student keen to become a professional dancer. 13-year-olds has a little quality, but consistently dealing with fatigue and injuries. Okay, fatigue and injuries, the 2 very different things. How do I help her overcome this to build a better resilience and stamina to handle the demands of required workload? First of all, a 13-year-old is a little bit too early to make that kind of assessment, yes? And we don't need to have this kind of pressure, to have this kind of title, right? Because she's on her way to become a professional. We cannot have that kind of pressure put in front of us, right? Then the problem is consistently dealing with fatigue and injuries. That this is something that I think we as ballet teachers, sometimes we believe we're invincible. We're like psychologists, we're like podiatrists, we're like nutritionists, we're like pediatric, we're everything. You're not. I'm telling you right now, we are not. The fatigue and injuries may be a deficiency in their health system. We don't know. This is all need a professional analyzation. It needs the blood work. It needs a overall health check to see. It could be there is a calcium deficiency in the bone structure. I don't know. I'm just talking like, again, pretend like I'm a doctor. I'm not. But one thing I know is I worked in university. I'm a lecturer in a university. We know in our training, it's very clear, we only make a statement to the profession that we're in. Okay, so we're not really helping students to overcome something that it needs a serious professional medical attention. So that's why I picked this for us to have this kind of dialogue. Let the professional, let the doctors have to analyze how to improve this child, and for us to teach her how to dance. So how do you help her to overcome this is have a team, have a couple other professionals, let their professional opinion and assessment to help you, let's say, not just help her, help you to come up with a training plan. And it could be just time. It could just need a time. It could be just stress. It could be just the higher, the worry of psychologically couldn't worry about couldn't meet your expectation. It could just be simple as that. But again, it needs other professionals to inject in their opinion into this, and for us not to make a statement that we're not really trained for. One of my current struggle is reducing the tension from the hand, arm lines, and the face, and try to get them to actually express/perform during the class. Do I have any tips for that? If you know how I teach, and I always have a very distinctive line between classroom technique work and coaching and a role. This, to me, yes, you say, well, it's connected. Technically, it's connected, but artistically, it's very different. Professionally, I'm not a fan of performing the facial expression of the classroom work. I'm not. So to me, classroom work is really a technical work. The artistic aspect of a classroom work is two things: port de bras and musicality. That's it. That's the artistic aspect of classroom work. So we perform, in this particular case that she said, actually express and perform what? Perform what? Perform port de bras, éproulement, musicality. These three things is the group consists of artistry. That's it. For a young child to see the artistic aspect of this, what we need to focus on is not artificial facial expression, does not have any port de bras, does not have any upper body as a reinforcement, because it's not believable. If we just smile, if we have all kinds of facial expression, the first thing first Tony to the front, flex foot, we're already feeling something, it's not genuine. It is not, and we don't need that in the technique class. The artistic expression aspect technique class is in the arms, in the port de bras. So she's talking about the tension in the hands and the arms, because if we're not clear or direction or connection between our head and the hand, how I follow my hand out to the side, how my chin lift up when I do allongé, if we couldn't do this part, there's no artistic aspect of the class. That's it. So what I just did for a young child, if she does this, that's artistry. That's artistry out of a young student. So what we need to focus on is the absolutely perfect port de bras and upper body placement and éproulement. Three things. Then you will have artistry. We cannot scream at them artistry. They don't know what you're talking about. They will have no clue what you're talking about, because their life experience is not rich enough for them to feel whatever that you feel about things. Okay, so just musicality, éproulement, and port de bras. As a teacher, so I'm consistently undertaking further training and research to develop my best teaching methods and expertise. However, I was never a professional dancer. I can't help but have concerns that I'm missing something in what I'm able to offer my students. So we have anxiety. What if I'm not doing enough? Do you have any advice or key points that could help in this area? I want to tell you, some of the best teachers, some of the most remarkable teachers and influential teachers are not the principal dancers. That's just a fact. You look at the data. Okay, so that link, it really doesn't exist, because a good educator, a communicator, a person can have the heart and selfless heart to teach, to pour everything into a child. Not necessarily we're a prima ballerina. Let's just put it this way. The data, that's the data can show that, okay? So that none of us needed to feel the sense of professional deficiency if we were not the principal dancers, did Giselle in the Metropolitan Theater. But what we do need is a heart of a teacher. That's to me, it's very important. To have a compassionate mind, to have a eye willing to take the time, look beyond the faults, look beyond the imperfection, look beyond the things that are blocking us to become a very empathetic teacher. So that's the quality of a good, so-called effective teacher, because eventually, think about ballet. What is it? Turned out, what is it? I can see three things that everybody's talking about. Turned out, point de feet, and épaulement, the port de bras, correct? I mean, to be completely honest with you. But how do you teach these things? How do you put the idea in students' mind? That makes you an effective teacher. That makes you a result-driven teacher, is your heart. It is your heart. So we don't need to worry so much about the fact that I never danced those roles. How can I teach? Most of repertoire for George Balanchine's trust to teach right now all over the world, teach George Balanchine's ballets are not principal dancers. A lot of them didn't even dance the roles themselves. So, but they're teachers. And we do research, we do training, we patient with ourselves, we're willing to work with the dancers, not only with the feet and the flexibility and turned out on a beautiful face, but we're willing to work with everybody who has a heart to dance. That makes us a teacher, I believe. How to select variations across technique levels. What are the judges looking for in competitions? So we talked about this actually. We covered that in our previous talk. I like to talk about, I'd like to point out one thing, that instead of what judges looking for in a competition, it's more important that judges what they don't want to see in a student. We talk about, sloppy musicality, too difficult, not ready, sloppy entries, music. This just very simple things that we can fix, that we tendency to have a low score when we see things that it can be done but not done. And how to select variations across technique level, we talk about this. Technical readiness and emotional readiness, two things. And sensibility to the music, to the role. What are make or break things for judges during the competition? This is related to a clean, clear execution, and with one word, big word, intentionality, intention. Everything you do have a clear intention. Even it's a mistake, but you did it with conviction. That quality is coming from how you coach those students. Yeah, it's a mistake is okay, but how you move forward. This all needs to be in there, because we will never fault somebody who actually slipped and fall on stage, because it happens. We're all professional dancers at one point. It happens, right? But how do you pick that up, move forward? Actually, I give somebody a very good score. If they fell and they come up, act like nothing happened, variation carried on, beautiful quality. It shows that it was coached properly that way. So what can be done perfectly. What is not at the professional and the technical level, the student at this moment, the variation-wise disguise that perfectly. It shows the strength, the teaching strength, the professional strength behind that student. Where to research and learn variations. Now, I like to say the research is really, really big deal in here, because if you say, if you say, I'm uncomfortable with come up my own version, right? I had never danced this variation. I feel very uncomfortable, and I only saw full-length ballet, a couple times. So internet is a beautiful place to be, absolutely beautiful place to be, because it's literally is a seed of information, internet. However, there's a proper way to use internet, right? So we cannot just copy it. You cannot go to Bolshoi, a version of a Le Corsaire, and you pick a variation because you know how this variation is done. Because it is prima ballerina. Those variations are designed for that particular ballerina. It's not a conventional way. It is specifically designed, musicality perhaps altered. So if you just randomly pick a variation to let your student, without any alteration, without any polishing, just let that student learn that particular variation, it's not going to be successful. So everything you learn from out there, the resources of internet, everything you learn, it has to go through you. Understand, you have to take this information, you have to digest the information, and you have to regurgitate out what you learned. It cannot just copy it, because that dancer of yours is not a prima ballerina of Bolshoi theater. Right? You take all this knowledge, it has to go through your own research, have you go through your own study in terms of tempo, in terms of calculation, in terms of how many turns, everything. It has to come from you. It has to go through this professional process. That step you cannot skip. That's why sometimes I see variations are way too complicated. Variation too individualized. It tells me that this teacher didn't do anything. It basically learned something and teach to the student. And better yet, the music is handheld, cell phone, record from the computer, and that's done with it. We see it. Don't think we don't see it. You see it. You know yourself. And that's something that I think you should avoid. How much can you adapt a variation to a student's level? You has to be determined. You have to determine that. And if you take a student to a competition, after she's done, give that child to the parents. You should sit in the audience, watch everything, watch everything. This is the best place to be. And you can see, because when you watch this many variations, this is what I did. I just sit and watch. If you watch this many variations, you can see clearly what works, what doesn't. That's what I know. I know what works, what it doesn't. Why this variation worked, this version worked so well with this student, and why it didn't, the Aurora. It has to have a very perfect temperament for a student to execute that, because the sensibility has to be there. And I see it even if you choose a very simple version, but still very effective. So you learn through observation, take your time, and then you learn, say, you know what, that was very clever adaptation. That was very clever alteration. And all this knowledge, as a dancer, I used to, when I see a good dancer dancing, I used to be just in the wing, truly. I just watch. And I know some dancers, in a company, they don't really do fold out, let's say, run through in the studio. Or they do fold out technically, but all those nuances, it's not there until they go on stage. So I used to be just in the wing watching. Apollo, I used to just watching, my favorite, Peter Bull, now is the artistic director of Pacific Northwest Ballet. His Apollo was unlike any others. And I see everybody dance like a statue, like a walking statue, like a walking David. Apollo. Peter was very different. Peter was a living God with flesh, with a real man, a real person, not a walking statue. And that I learned. I want to be that. I want to be you can touch as a real person, not like a Greek god, but it's a person you can relate to. This could be a man in the real life. He chooses to dance that way. I learned that. There's no shame to admit it. There's no shame to admit it. I wanted to dance like that because to me, that's the best. I have no problem to admit that. So as teachers, there's no problem to see a best version and you remember it. That's a very clever approach to this. And instead of to do very difficult turn right there, I choose to do that. And spectacular, beautiful. You don't have to do the 40 turns at the end of every variation. You don't have to. But learn a beautiful way from your colleagues. How do you keep students motivated after training for many years? Motivation. And this part is interesting. I see a trend after classical ballet training. Let's say there's a moment of when they go on point. That's like a fault line. There's a moment the students lose interest because technical expectation is going to make certain students very, very challenging for them if the structure of the feet isn't reached certain ways. So that just from about their body point of view. And another, it's not like they don't love dance anymore. That's not true. It is the type of the challenge, the technical challenge for their body is just over the threshold of how much they can bear. So that's one thing. The other is their psychological, emotional maturity somehow is grow past the satisfaction, the happiness that they desire is no longer can be found in the dance studio. This is the number one issue. So let's say a studio they've been with since they were 5, 6 years old. They've gone through all the competitions, beautiful performance, everything. And suddenly at this moment, she's 15. She's 14, she's 15. Everything that she was found so happy about is no longer produced the same fulfillment anymore. So this is truly, this is not for it's not everybody's like that, but this is talk about training for many years, lose motivation. This is up to the school, up to us teachers to have the dialogue with the students, to come up literally, I call it the products, come up the products that still serve the stimulation, still serve this kind of a motivation and inspiration for the students to move on, to still keep dance as a part of their lives. We, as a studio, as teachers, have to keep up with their growth. It's when they feel you are still, and my teacher when I was 9, you're still talking to me when I was 9 years old. You still baby me when I was 10 years old. And now I'm 15, I'm a woman, I'm a young man. That's what the problem is. Not dance itself, because we can find a different type of dance. There is a contemporary can be very fulfilling. What about choreographic experiences? There's many things that in the dance school can be elements of further renewed excitement. But if we don't grow with our students, that's where the difference is coming from. It could be, that's a big part of it in my experience. Yeah. It's how do you manage students' attitude, especially age 9 and up? And I think this is a lot of things that relate to the one that I was just talking about, is that from 9 years and up, there is a psychological change at this moment. So we have to grow as a teacher, as an educator, as a studio, to serve them in ways that are appropriate for them. Yeah. So I think this is a really great moment for us to stop. And as you can see, there's a lot of very rich topics here, which I will address every single one of them individually, and we will record them and we will put them in our newly established school community board. It's SKOOL. So this is a new community platform that we, through our research, is really, really best for us to be and for our minds to be together and to share our knowledge. And most importantly, find the support of one another and to move forward, thrive together. So this is, I encourage everybody to sign up, very easy to sign up, and we will have all this information recorded, all these questions you answer, you ask, we didn't get to answer in that platform. And it's going to build very beautifully, very professionally, and I encourage you to sign up, and I will put all the information that we missed today in there. So I wanted to say thank you for listening, and we are going to continue our communication, continue our dialogue, and we'll be seeing you again next time. Thank you very much for spending this 2 hours with me. I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. See you next time.
See you next time. Thank you.